Hey, good morning. Just wanted to give you a little update on the stalker goats. And these are, for those of you that don't know, these are all wethers. We do have one female in here somewhere, and I can't ever seem to locate her. But I'll get her out just as quick as we can. But what we do with our wethers is we try to finish them for the processor, for where we take them to the sale. And we usually spend at least minimum of 60 days feeding them. And I usually have corn left over from a different enterprise that we do, and that's the case this year. So I have corn that's readily available, and last year I fed them strictly corn, and I just kept increasing it until it was time to go to the sale. And they did okay. I didn't have any issues with them, other than they had a very loose stool, you know, while that was going on, and even up to the time when we hauled them. I remember World's Greatest actually cleaned the trailer out because it was horrible. So that wasn't a great deal, but they did well. And so this year I've done it a little bit different, because I know there's going to come a time where I don't have an unlimited supply of corn, at least for the amount of goats that we're trying to finish. And so this year I'm doing it, I've got the corn still, but right now I've got them up to a half a pound of corn, and then a half a pound of 16% pellets for goats. And they're doing pretty well on it. They seem to be eating it fairly well. You know, they just don't destroy the pellets like they do the corn. You know, the corn is just like ice cream for them, so they love that stuff. But while we've been doing that, what I've done is, and here's our feeders that we've been using. What I've done is, just yesterday, and this is one of the older wethers that we missed. There's two of them in there with the yellow tags, and so he's going to have to come out. And then there's a bigger one back over here, a red one. There's going to be two black yellow tags that'll have to come out, and then that red one over there. But what started happening is, instead of having to fence a new paddock every 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, whatever the rotation called for to control parasites, I'm trying to move more into a model that's going to be able to service more stalkers. As our herd grows, I want to already kind of have that laid out how we want to do it. So what I was kicking around the idea of, and I did implement, was I would bring them in here and feed them once a day through that gate, and then just leave the gate open. And so when they got done eating what they wanted to eat, which hopefully is all of it, they would drift back out in this pasture right here. And you see the timber line. It runs to the timber line that way, and then it runs this way, way over a long ways. It's probably, I think it's 150, 200 acres. So it's a lot of forage for them. They should be able to select and do very well on their selection. So I thought that would accomplish a couple of different things. It would accomplish them being able to get their forage needs to go with their feed that I'm giving them, and have it be the best forage, or have it be whatever they need. Because a lot of times when they're selecting, that's what they'll do. They'll try to select what they need if it's available. And so I thought it would just be a better way for them to balance themselves and do better. There's no water in here, so every morning they need to go over there and water. So we'll just do that every morning, and then every evening we'll put them up. Now, here's the issue that I've been having. Sammy, who is a great dog, I say he's a great dog, he's the problem. He has not been staying with them. So you got this big field. On where that timber is right there is a creek, and everybody who has creek property knows what travels creeks. Everything, you know, cats, bobcats, coyotes, you know, any predator that might be after a kid will travel that creek. So I haven't lost any yet, but I start really worrying about, you know, the money that you're putting into these kids, and then you're just turning them out there in hopes that nothing gets them. Because Sam decided that he wanted to go back up with Betsy and stay with the Billies, and I tried everything I could to make him want to stay down here. I would only feed him, you know, when he's down here with them, and of course he would see me coming or hear me coming, and he'd come down here with him. Well, that's no good. This is how he protests. My solution and what I'm doing now is in the evenings, right before dark, I bring them in and feed them. And that's every day. So I brought them in last night and fed them. And then I leave them and Sam in this little trap. This is, I think, a 7-acre trap. And so they stay in here overnight. And then first thing in the morning, this is the first thing I'm going to do, unless I have an emergency or something. I'm going to come down here and open the gate for them so they can go out. Now, that may not solve if I have a predator issue somewhere, because the dogs have still got to stay with them. But most predators aren't as active during the day as they are during the night. So we're going to try that for a little bit and see if maybe it not only helps the goats have protection at night, but it may just help Sam decide he wants to go ahead and stay with him during the day. Now, part of the problem is Betsy, because she'll come down here like she is right now, and then she'll lead Sam out of here. So that's just a dog thing that you have to deal with. But I guess what I'm trying to show you is that sometimes you have to do things maybe that you don't want to. Nobody wants to handle their goats and move them or pin them or whatever you want to call it every single day. You just don't want to do that, because it's something you got to do every day. But that's something that we learned a long time ago with livestock, is that it's not a big deal. If you want to be in the livestock business, then be in the livestock business. If you want to be retired and hobby, then hobby. Do it however you want to do it. But this is something that typically works well on different types of solutions. You know, bringing animals in, giving them a little bit of feed in the bunk, and then letting them drift out. And that's what we do with our calves. If we keep our calves over the summer, we do the same thing. And matter of fact, this is where we used to do it. I'd bring them in every day. We'd put them in those pens. I'd put feed out, and then I'd open the gate so they could go on out. Come here, Sammy. See, Sammy's heading out that way for something. And I'd turn the gate out to let him out. And that's just how we did it every day. I remember, you know, I would take the dogs and all that stuff, and what an opportunity for a dog to bring animals in every day. That's what stock dogs need. Anyway, so that's how we're dealing with this. We'll keep you updated on if it's a good solution, and the only way we'll know that is by survivability. It's not going to hurt them. It's not going to hurt them as far as finishing them, because they're going to do the same thing. They're just going to stay in here and bed in here is basically what they're going to do. So we'll keep you updated on that. Now, I wanted to cover something else, or at least pose a question for everybody. You know, if you're watching this because of the goats, you're part of the goat community that we're trying to create. And that involves us, it involves all these other channels that do goats. You've heard me mention Wholesome Family Farms, because, you know, they do goats kind of like we do goats. It's a commercial goat operation, and they treat it like that. And so everybody that does that, that's part of kind of this community, the advantage of having a channel and or having people that comment on the channel is that it's easier for everyone to kind of give their potential solutions or help somebody else like us, or us help somebody else that's going through an issue. And so we had a question about mites from somebody that their goats had gotten mites, and they didn't know how we would deal with that type of scenario, or do we deal with that type of scenario. And I really don't know. That's why I'm bringing this up. You know, we've never had mites that I know of. Now, I'm not grabbing my goats and checking them for mites or fleas or ticks or anything like that, but we've just never had that issue. So I don't know if maybe they've had them, or maybe they do have them and we don't bring it up. But the way I responded was that to my knowledge, the only thing that we do that might help with that is that we are constantly trying to move our goats to a new area, a new fresh area. And that may have zero meaning with mites. So the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm hoping that somebody else in the community maybe has more experience with those types of issues. I think this commenter said they had maybe 35 goats and we're hoping to grow the herd, and so it's a sizable amount of goats. And so, you know, you guys that have been in that situation, you know, do you know what caused them? What's their life cycle like? You know, how can you get rid of them? Can you do it with management? Do you have to treat them? You know, the problem with most livestock, and I have nothing against vets. We go to vets. You've heard us contact vets before when we were dealing with pink eye. I know you've got to get vets involved at some point. But sometimes vets are unwilling to think about, is there something I can do with my management to prevent that from happening? For example, the parasite issues with the worms. You know, I can remember years ago with cattle. They were asking as they were preg checking cows, you know, well, when do we worm? How often do we worm? And we're like, well, we don't worm our cows, you know, we move them. And they were like, oh, golly, you got to worm them. And so he ended up taking samples of the manure from all of the manure he gathered up that day from preg checking cows. And if you've ever been through that, he's shoving his hand in and just slopping it down on the ground. So he just got a bunch of handfuls of that and went and checked it after we were done, and it was clean. So I say that to say, a lot of times they know that you can break this life cycle like that, but they don't think anybody's willing to do like that, to manage like that, because it's more difficult, which I don't understand that, but they say it's more difficult. So sometimes vets may not give you options that are really there because they think it's easier to, you know, give them a powder, or give them a shot, or give them a bolus, or give them something like that that will treat it. So back to the community. There's going to be somebody in the community that knows probably everything there is about mites. They know the veterinarian's treatment for it, and if there is another treatment, they may know that too. So that's what we're looking for. So somebody reach out and make a comment on that, and hopefully it'll get to the right person and maybe help them or help us. If we ever see a mite. Of course, I'm not going to be looking for them because I don't want to see them. Out of sight, out of mind. Anyway, it's an advantage of having a channel. So I guess I'd encourage you to have a channel or get involved with a channel, because it definitely helps. It helps us, and hopefully in turn we help some other people. But we'll do the same thing again tonight, and we'll continue to do that either until Sam stays with them or something else changes where we need to make an adjustment. I'm back down here later the same day. This is going to be an unusual deal today because I can see them down there next to cattle, and I'm anxious to kind of see what's going to happen. Sam is not coming over here yet, and he doesn't realize it, but he better get over here, and he better get over here before I shut the gate. I'll come through here and just give these, look how easy these are, one hand. Give them a little flip. If they have old feed in there, and it's usually because there's one piece of manure mostly. Normally, unless I have to go find them, I can just holler at them and they'll kind of come. What do you say, fellas? What y'all say? Well, let's go eat. And they'll just head for the pens. They'd make your dog look real good if you had a dog gathering them. Straight to the pen. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it from here on out. I think it's going to work okay. I don't like the fact that Sam still kind of goes off during the day, but you know, I'll have to figure that out. I don't quite know what to do with that. You know, eventually, if that doesn't get straight, he may lose a job. I'm not gonna have to build an electric perimeter for him to stay with the goats. So I guess I can take away where he's going, which he likes going back to the barn because that's where Betsy goes, and she's the billy goat. She is the dog for the billy goat. Sorry. So anyway, I'll work on that, see if I can't figure that out. But thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.